People who have what it takes to refuse the mark, I think they need to be, they're going to have to be like, maybe fanatics, if I can say that, like idealists who would be ready to give up everything, change their whole entire lifestyle before they would go against their conscience.
Maybe we messed up by not giving people the next chapter in the book of Revelation to read. You know, the one where it really hits home how seriously God views this whole concept of the mark?
Well, this guy knows what it's about. You can tell by what he's saying. But let me read it out. It says, "And the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, If any man worship the beast in his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation. And he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb."
Yeah, the Lamb in that passage is referring to Jesus. This isn't the kind of lovey-dovey stuff that most churchgoers would associate with God or Jesus, is it? But it's right there in the Bible.
Maybe people should stop telling God how to do his business. And if he says there's going to be a day when he's had enough of mankind's disrespect for him, then so be it.
Okay, and let me read on. "And the smoke of their torment ascends up forever and ever. And they have no rest day nor night, whoever worships the beast and his image, and whoever receives the mark of his name."
Yeah, from that, it seems that accepting the mark is the point of no return for mankind. And I think we're on the verge of that point right now in human history.
Not the line in the sand, it's the line in the concrete. That is where it's drawn. I think that is where the soul is lost. It's as simple as that. It is a choice of serve the mainframe or mammon or whatever you want to call it. But there is obviously a definitive line.
Actually, I did let that one marketing guy who I interviewed in the cafe earlier read the passage, which is probably why he fell to pieces so much. My guess is that he'd never even heard of that passage before, and he chose not to accept it, probably because it was easier to stay in denial.
I don't know. I think that's very negative. I don't like to think that these things are negative. I wouldn't want to read that paragraph then think that's a negative thing. Just to take that leap from reading a warning sign to actually taking it to factual facts that it's happening is a massive leap of, I don't know, for me I think that's a massive leap. I can see it as a warning, and there's loads of sections which, you know, this is what we experience in this time and whatever, and take heed of this, but I don't think it's that translatable to now, I don't think, for me.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that the verse about not taking the mark of the beast is followed by a verse which talks about people dying for their faith. I mean, that's what it's coming to, you know, and that's what people don't want to think about. But here, let me read it. "Here is the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commands of God and the faith of Jesus. And I heard a voice from heaven say to me, Write, Blessed are the dead which die in the Lord."
One of the problems that I found about most religious discussions concerning the book of Revelation is that it's all about matching up symbols and dates, or trying to convince people that your church is the one true church. It never seems to relate back to the teachings of Jesus. But when you recognize that the mark of the beast, you know, is all about buying and selling, there is an obvious link. Jesus, you know, commanded his disciples not to work for food, not to even think about where their material needs would be, you know, come from, or how they'd be met. But where is there anyone today actually teaching people to obey the teachings of Jesus? You know, Jesus made it clear that the choice would be between serving God or mammon, or God and the mainframe, as that guy Greg put it earlier.
Yeah, there's a guy here in the UK who's been living like without money for more than a year now. And he's not really the religious type, but he's got it really spot on about the buying and selling. And he seems to understand that it may cost us our lives in the end.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this, and I feel like sometimes the soldiers of peace aren't as brave as the soldiers of war. And that if you see the soldiers of war going into battle, they're prepared to die for what they're doing. We all need to be a little bit braver. We all need to stand up and be counted and be heard. I think we all, myself completely included, need to be braver. I've been living for the last 12 months without money. Where we used to find security in friends and family, and the greater communities we lived in, we now see security in notes and coins. When we buy and sell things, we're saying, I'm going to help you, but I want something in return. What better reason to help somebody than the fact they actually need some help? Like, do we actually always need to get something in return? Think about it. Nobody goes to your dad like, well, you know, I've cooked dinner this evening, that's £5. If we all work together, share the resources, not only would it be better for the environment and would we use less resources, it's much better for us as people.
Yeah, Mark and some of his friends recently put on an alternative gathering in Bristol, which coincided with Buy Nothing Day. I think it was called the Free Economy Festival, and it was a fantastic day because everything was done for free. No money changed hands, no one was paid for what they did, and even the food itself was free because it was rescued from supermarket bins.
Yeah, they fed more than 1,000 people, and there was still food left over. So it was a really good illustration of those what those street punks that you interviewed, Jesse, were saying about how you could survive on what the people throw away.
Here's some footage of the gathering. So just here at the Buy Nothing Day Festival, and there's an army of volunteers, as you can see, busily prepping a 3-course meal, which is going to be served later on. So it's great to be a part of this. Most of the food that I get is from the back of supermarkets. About 90% of all the food I eat, gets found.
I'm just amazed that all this food goes to waste.
Do I live to work or do I work to live? And do I give to earn or do I earn to give? And if I do my best for society, will they care about money or will they care about me?
I think this is wonderful. It's really nice to all be under the same roof. I'm a language teacher, so I brought loads of sort of French books and dictionaries and textbooks and stuff like that I don't need. And I found chocolate spread, so I exchanged linguistics for chocolate spread. There you go.
My first experience arriving and finding that everything's free. I think it feels nice to yourself to have donated something that you don't need anymore and then take something that you actually need. No, this is a new experience for me, but I would happily, as long as it's still healthy, it's not going to make me ill, I have no qualms about eating food that's out of date. It was much nicer than going into a shop and exchanging money.
Hello! Can I have everyone's attention for 40 seconds maybe? I know there's a wonderful clothes swap going on.
What we're doing is we're doing a clothes swap. So basically any clothes that you like them, they're good clothes but you just haven't worn them for a while. You bring them along, trade them in, like this nice, jazzy waistcoat.
Yeah.
And then see if you can find anything that you like.
I think it's a fantastic way of kind of making an active decision to kind of not involve money in things. You don't need money if people are prepared to share and swap. A whole new word, swap.
Swapping.
Sounds slightly Dutch. Swap. Yeah, good. We're shopping today.
Shopping.
Yes, it's like shopping, not quite. It's just a really fun day. It's so nice to see so many kids. It's so nice to see so many people just really enjoying themselves, and also the slight bewilderment on people's faces when they're like, so I can just take this. It's like, well, yeah, it didn't cost us anything, so just take it away.
People are surprised that everything is free, but it's just proof that it can exist and it can happen.
Money's a pain in the neck. It's useless. It's like controls people, turns people into, I don't know, things that they don't want to be.
I'm just doing whatever is thrown at me really. I was helping with some furniture being brought in, just chopping some potatoes now and clearing up later on, and anything that needs doing, I'm up for doing it.
I think I'm powering up the music system. Not sure how.
Certainly, I think people's generosity of spirit is always there. Just needs to be given the space to sort of freely flow.
Ooh, shining eyes still see. Ooh, the docile dreamers alone. Ooh, have it all, but the best from me. We got home, we got barracks and drums and a rich voice sits on your throne. I got empathy, you got apathy, and I got throne. Thank you, that was amazing.
Yeah, it has been a bit overwhelming, to be honest. I felt a bit emotional earlier, just like everybody giving their time for free. These guys work their arse off all day. Like, I haven't seen people who get paid a lot of money work this hard, non-stop, relentlessly. There's been a couple of thousand people through the doors here today at some point, and just experiencing living without money for one day.
I do think that is a significant point.
Which point?
Well, the fact that what happened there was just for one day. I mean, people had a lot of fun. We all did. But as we've seen from the other footage, it's going to take a lot more dedication than that. I think Mark Boyle definitely could see that, but I'm not so sure that the others did. You know, it's not just going to be about giving up the things we don't need. We may one day actually be forced to lay down our lives for one another.
Yeah, I interviewed someone at that festival who was talking quite seriously about living without money. But it seemed like even in that setting, she seemed sort of somewhat cautious about what she was saying.
I'm nervous about talking about it to people because even the hippiest of hippies get like their prickles come up when you start talking about doing the job that you want to do and not having to enslave yourself for your money, because no one wants to have to do it, so everybody hates it. So when someone comes along and says you don't need to do this, you know, everyone gets like, but I do, I have to. And that tension, I think it all hangs on that tension in some ways. I mean, it compromises you're never giving totally and you're never receiving totally when you're using money, because you're always aware of the back current of the exchange. But when you don't use money, if you just are giving something and you're not thinking about what you're going to get back, it's a full-hearted give. If you have to acknowledge to yourself your vulnerability, and you cannot pretend that you're not vulnerable, when you've got money, it masks over your natural insecurities, the needs that everybody has. We all pretend that we don't all share like these basic needs, and we can get away with that with money. But when there's no money, you're much more aware of how dependent on each other you are, and you're much more open in your vulnerability, which is a much more heart-centered, it's a much braver, much more heart-centered way to live. Well, it's almost like a spirituality. There's that guy in the States, it is a spirituality for. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually got an interview with Swello where he lives at his cave in Utah.
He's the guy who's been living without money for 10 years, right?
Yeah, 10 years, yeah, that's right.
Dang.
This is like my home base here. Like I have a cave here, and I usually stay here in the winter time. The cave's small, so I can keep it warm in the winter pretty easily. But I also have a camp in town, and that I move around now and then. It's very temporary. Well, everything is. And often in warmer months, I travel around the country, just live wherever randomness takes me. I remember thinking, going through periods where I thought that, or I wondered why we didn't practice the teachings of Jesus. It's like he was more of an icon to be worshipped than to be followed in practice. We divide the world up among different religions and philosophies, but to me there's only two. And it doesn't matter whether you call it Christian, Hindu, Buddhist, whatever. Basically they all boil down to love or money, God and mammon. The Buddha said there are two paths, one leads to wealth, one leads to nirvana. And Jesus said one leads to mammon and one leads to God. So those are the only two religions in the world. One's spiritual and one's materialism. So there are no grounds under which I would allow myself to be microchipped.
Don't take the mark of the beast. Don't take the mark of the beast. Don't take the mark of the beast. Don't take the mark of the beast.
It's a conspiracy, that's why they're feeding us TV, CDs, video games and DVDs. So we'll believe these to be given us parody. Welcome to the edge of subliminal tyranny. They're giving you liberty to be who you wanna be, as long as you constantly slave to the economy. It's corporate thuggery. Soon they'll be giving you microchip technology. If you want to be free, then please leave this scene. Flee your ID from the beast PC. These prophecies will release the remedy, but if you practice them, you will be caught a radical enemy. Keep your energy clean and redeem peace free. We believe the greed breeds mean deeds. We sow the seeds to achieve a real peace, but we will never take the mark of the beast.
Don't take the mark of the beast. Don't take the mark of the beast.
In times as dark as these, please don't take the mark of the beast.
Don't take the mark of the beast. Don't take the mark of the beast.
In times as dark as these, please don't take the mark of the beast.
What is going on? We got a choice in store that'll count for oh so long. One chance to make it right. One path that leads to light. One path that leads to fire. Yeah. Will you stand up for truth or sell your soul for high?
What tricks this? That the barcode is 3/6 is fixing it. 3 parallel lines with a 6 in it. Time to open up your eyes, get the scriptures in. The church is paralyzed, so they're missing it. When money's out of lies and no Christians in. They claim to follow Christ, but they're dissing him. They're so busy shouting praise, they ain't listening. I know the picture's grim, it's gonna get worse, but first it's a curse. It's coming upon the face of the earth. The human race will give birth to the worst person, and nerds may even lurk in the church. Is how it works, they try to insert a